Welcome to Tales from the Fireside by RODEAX and Dan Lee, a collection of grim tales to light your way through the long dark of winter.
Ah, I wondered if you would be joining us tonight. Well, don't just stand there. Close the door, shut out the bitter cold. Come, sit, for the story is just about to begin.
Martin seemed to be a normal man. Middle-aged, slightly balding, worked in an office. Try and think of something really remarkable. Martin is the opposite of that. In fact, when someone asked about Martin's work, he would simply reply with, "I work in an office," and that would be that. He spent most of his days at work staring intently at a computer screen and typing with a lackadaisical enthusiasm. No one at work barely even noticed him, let alone speak to him. So he didn't have many friends or much of a social life. He used to go out with his sister and her husband every now and then, and he would enjoy himself, but he never wanted to instigate social interaction. Martin enjoyed dining and cooking. You might even say it was his hobby, his only hobby. Every weekend you would catch Martin frequenting some restaurant or another, trying the latest menus and dishes. Most of the restaurants and the restaurant's chefs knew Martin, which definitely was a positive for him. The chefs would often personally come out and greet him, and if they knew he was coming in, they would often have a new dish ready for him to try, to see if it was good enough to put on the new menu. He would of course say every time that it tasted great, which is why everybody knew him as the nice polite man that always books a table for one and will be gone by 8:30 at the latest. He never liked to be too late because usually when he got back to his averagely sized and modestly decorated apartment, he would try and recreate what he had just eaten in the restaurant, and most of the time to some degree of success. It was never due to the fact that he didn't like what he had at the restaurant. He always sourced his fresh ingredients locally, and he was always interested in how different it tasted with minute changes. One chilling autumn evening, Martin, while on his way back from his office and a very stressful day of doing whatever he does, received a message on his phone through his favourite form of outdated social media. It was a message from an old school friend, Simon. It was a nice message asking if he would like to catch up, maybe over dinner. Martin would, of course, never pass up the opportunity to go to yet another restaurant, even if it did mean he would have to talk to somebody. But this was Simon. How bad could it be? At school, Simon and Martin were the best of friends. They were in every class together. They tried to form a comedy double act and debut at the school talent show. This resulted in a lot of complaints from the parents, a few of the grandmothers fainting, and a month's detention for both of them. They also tried to form a band, a punk band to be exact, but the school had a strict no safety pins in ears policy. They ignored it in true punk fashion and landed themselves another month's detention. They had a lot of ideas and ventures that would often lead them to another month's detention. If all the detentions they had earned were carried out properly, they'd still be sat in the classroom after lessons now. Neither of them cared. They would pretend to listen to their parents telling them off while thinking of what they could possibly get up to the next day that would make school even slightly bearable. At first, Martin didn't reply to the message. He didn't like to use his phone while walking. He felt it ignorant to everyone else using the footpath, so he thought he would wait until he got home and reply then. He walked his usual way home, but this time he noticed another restaurant was opening on the main street. It looked like an Italian restaurant. He crossed the road to take a closer look. "Opening tomorrow," the sign on the window read. "Would you like to come along to the opening?" said a voice from behind Martin. The man that the voice belonged to stood quite proud, with a huge smile on his face. "Are you the owner?" Martin asked. "Indeed I am," replied the man. "Sergio's the name, and very nice to meet you. So will you come along tomorrow night and join us in the grand opening?" "Yes, why not?" replied Martin with a smile. "Would I need to reserve a table?" "I'll do it for you now. Come in." Sergio unlocked the door and led Martin inside. Martin didn't want to pay much attention to the restaurant. He wanted to see it in its full glory on opening day, so he averted his eyes from the gloom hovering over the empty tables. Sergio turned on a lamp on the bar and got out his reservations book. "Table for two?" asked Sergio. "One," replied Martin. "Table for one it is, my friend. See you tomorrow." Martin said goodbye and let himself out of the door and back home. He got home, immediately flicked on the kettle, made himself a cup of tea in his favourite cup and sat down to watch another cooking programme, hoping to get some ideas of what he's going to cook for dinner. After talking to Sergio and thinking about going to the Italian restaurant the next day, he really felt like his favourite Italian dish, spaghetti carbonara. But knowing that he would have Italian the day after, he decided on pan-fried sea bass with new potatoes, seasonal greens, and all dressed with herbs picked from his window pots. While having dinner, he remembered the message he got from Simon about meeting up sometime. He of course didn't want to reply during dinner, so he replied after. "Sure, when would you like to meet?" Bing! Almost immediately after sending the message off, he got one back. "Are you free tomorrow?" the message said. Martin replied with, "Busy tomorrow. Day after?" Bing! Another message back as quick as the first. "That's a shame. I've booked a table at the new Italian place opening near you." Martin couldn't believe the coincidence. He asked Simon who he was going with. Bing! Another instant reply. "I wanted to book a table for one, but the last one had just been taken, so I booked a table for two instead. But it will be just me." Martin agreed to join Simon for dinner. He would call into the restaurant the next day after work and tell them about the change, go home, get changed, and head back to the restaurant. And he did exactly that. When Martin arrived at the restaurant, he could see Simon straight away through the window. He hadn't changed. He'd maybe gotten a little bit larger and he'd lost some of his hair on his head, but gained some around his chin. But Martin still recognised him as Simon, the ex-punk. Martin walked through the door and Simon immediately jumped out of his chair to greet him with wide arms and an ecstatic expression. Simon wasn't much taller than Martin, but the sheer bulk seemed to engulf Martin in a friendly hug. "It's very good to see you again, Simon," Martin said as he tried to subtly get out of the embrace. "And great to see you too, sir. How are you?" Simon slapped Martin on the shoulder as they were sitting down. It was out of friendship and he didn't mean to hurt Martin, but he did, and he always had. Simon also spoke with an annoyingly loud bellow that seemed to fill the room and made Martin really embarrassed. "I'm good, I'm very good. And yourself?" Martin replied, while looking around to make sure they weren't disturbing anyone. "Could be better." Simon called the waiter over with a click of his fingers and ordered a bottle of champagne. "Don't worry, it's my treat. Have whatever you want," Simon said as he flashed his wallet from his inside pocket. They spent the rest of the evening talking about what they're up to now and reminiscing about their school days. As the night drew to a close, they had gotten through almost all the dishes on the menu and 3 bottles of champagne. It was 11:45, much later than Martin had wanted to stay out for, but he was enjoying himself. Sergio was grateful to the two for coming on the opening evening and wished them to come back, but he was getting tired now, and they were the last ones left in the restaurant. Martin could tell they have slightly outstayed their welcome. He and Simon made their way out the door and said goodbye to each other. "Tonight was great," said Simon. "Yes, I had a lot of fun tonight, and it was good to see you again, and good to know you're doing so well," replied Martin. "Well, I'll send you another message and we'll do this again sometime." "Sounds good to me," said Martin. The two hugged and went to walk home. Simon lived on the opposite side of town to Martin, so this seemed like a great place to leave the night, but Simon started walking in the same direction. Martin was slightly puzzled, but he didn't want to intrude. After walking down the road a bit further, he asked Simon if he was heading the right way home, and he said that he lived on the opposite side of town to him. Simon shook his head. "No, I live down here now." He pointed towards the road that led to Martin's apartment. They carried on walking together for what seemed like the entire journey, right up to Martin's front door, but when Martin turned around, once again to bid his old friend a good night, he wasn't there. Martin stood and stared, confused into the gloom of the night. He looked up and down his street. He couldn't see Simon. He concluded they must have parted ways at some point without him noticing. After all, they were both feeling a bit fuzzy. Martin went inside, flicked the kettle on and passed out on the sofa. He stayed there all night until the alarm on his phone woke him up for work. He didn't feel as rough as he thought he was going to feel, but he still didn't feel great. He got up with a groan and engaged in his morning routine. He was brushing his teeth and he heard a bing from his phone. Another message. He had a look. Another message from Simon. Same again tonight? ? Martin thought for a moment. Another night like last. Worse still, another morning like this. No, he can't. He replied with a vague, not tonight, but hopefully soon. He thought nothing of it, carried on getting ready, and left for work. It was just after lunchtime. Martin carried on working through lunch in hope he'll be able to leave early and just retire to his living room with his favourite cooking programme. Bing! Another message from Simon. I've booked the table for tonight. See you at 7. Martin was astounded by what he was reading. He didn't want to see Simon again. He didn't want to go out again. He was just going to go home early, cook something and watch TV until bedtime. He replied to Simon again. Sorry, not going out tonight. I'll see you soon. Bing! I'll come and see you. Martin suddenly felt almost violated. He wanted to be left alone. He replied, no, on my own tonight, ill, see you soon. No message back. Not yet, at least. Martin made it through the day without hearing from Simon. Maybe he had upset him. He didn't really care. Martin went home, got changed into his pyjamas and curled up on the sofa watching a cooking show. A China special followed by travels through Italy. Between the two, he cooked dinner. When Martin prepared meat, he always thought to himself that an animal has died to provide me with this delicious feast. I will treat it with respect. And he did. He always treated the meat with respect. He also gently sliced and gently seasoned as not to take away any taste, only to enhance it. Just as the travelling chef was leaving Rome, the doorbell rang. Martin ignored it at first, but then it rang again, then again, then again. He answered the door, and stood there was Simon. Hey, Martin, he said in his bellowing voice. Hi, Simon. What are you doing here? I thought if my best buddy isn't going out, I'll come and see him. That's very nice of you, but I don't really want company tonight. Nonsense! Are you going to invite me in? Martin begrudgingly moved aside to let Simon pass. Simon went straight into the kitchen and fished around in the cupboard. He then pulled out a bottle of wine, took 2 glasses from the shelf, and slumped himself onto the sofa, gesturing for Martin to join. Again, they both drank until they could stay awake no longer. Martin passed out on the sofa and woke up the next day to an empty apartment. Simon was nowhere to be seen. Stranger still, there was no trace of him. There was only 1 wine glass on the coffee table, which Martin knew to be his. He thought maybe Simon had cleaned up after himself and left without saying goodbye, as not to disturb Martin's slumber. A few more days went past. Martin would awake every day to a message from Simon requesting to meet up. Martin was getting a bit sick of it. He tried staying at home and ignoring the doorbell when it rang. This didn't work. Simon just kept ringing until Martin answered. Martin also tried to go to various different restaurants, his havens, his safe places. He still couldn't get away. Simon would still turn up every time, pull up a chair, open some sort of alcohol, and Martin would have to walk home with him every time, only to find out when he got to his house, Simon wasn't there. Martin couldn't figure out what was going on. He didn't want to see Simon anymore. He'd gotten tired of his over-exuberance and his bellowing. He wanted him to go away. He wished he had never had dinner with Simon. He hated him. He might be Martin's oldest and dearest friend, but he hated him. A few more days passed by, and still the same every time. Martin was growing weary and tired. He just wanted to give up. He had no fight left in him anymore. He had even tried closing his social media accounts and throwing away his phone just to get rid of the relentless messages. It still didn't work. Simon always found some way of tracking him down. One morning Martin awoke to a different message. It was a message from his sister. "We haven't seen you for a while now. Why don't you come round to dinner tonight?" it said. To say that Martin was over the moon with this invitation was an understatement. He was thrilled that he would be in the company of someone else tonight, that they might be able to protect him from the bellowing nightmare. Martin could hardly contain his excitement at work. He was smiling all day and singing to himself for most of it. He did receive a message from Simon earlier on, but he didn't care. Tonight, he was going to be with his sister and her husband, and if he tried to come near, those two would protect him from the oath. It got to the end of the day, and Martin had sent his sister a message asking if he could come round a bit earlier after work. He said that he would like to see his nephew. Martin wasn't really bothered about seeing his nephew. He'd never really liked babies or children, but it was a great excuse. She said she would love it if he came round a bit earlier, so straight after work he got a taxi round to his sister's. When he arrived, the husband answered the door. "Hello, Martin. I wasn't expecting you this early," he said with a smile. "Hello, Sam. I thought I would pop round a little bit earlier and say hello to my nephew," Martin replied. The relief was ever present in his voice. "Come in, then. He's just through there in the sitting room with Vanessa. I'll be in a minute. I'm just putting the beef in the oven. Come on in." Martin had always gotten on very well with Sam. He was the one that introduced Sam and Vanessa. Martin made his way through to the sitting room where Vanessa was playing with his nephew, Harry. She'd got up and hugged Martin. "Great to see you again," she said. "And you, and how's little Harry?" He still didn't want to get too close to the baby. He didn't have anything against babies as such, they just made him a bit nervous. "Oh, he's fine," replied Vanessa. "He took his first steps the other day." "That's great," said Martin, still reeling from the sense of relief that Simon wasn't there. Later on, Vanessa put Harry to bed, and the grown-ups sat down to dinner. Martin was really looking forward to this. He held Sam in high regard, especially when it came to cooking. He always manages to get it just right. There it was, a feast laid out in front of him, waiting to be devoured. The beef, the vegetables, the Yorkshire pudding, all looked so good. He was just about to help himself to the vegetables when the doorbell rang. Martin's heart sank. Although Sam and Vanessa seemed to be expecting company, it couldn't be Simon. With his inflated frog face and beady eyes, it couldn't be. Sam answered the door, greeting the guest and showing them through to the dining room. It was Simon. "Martin, can I introduce you to Simon? He's a friend of mine for work." "Hello, Martin. Nice to meet you," Simon said as he smiled knowingly out of one side of his mouth. Martin couldn't believe it. His safe place with his favourite people, with his favourite food, has now been invaded. "Please take a seat, Simon." "Sam, could I speak with you, please?" said Martin with a panicked scramble out of his seat and ushered guidance into the kitchen. "Do you know who that is?" whispered Martin. "Of course I do. That's Simon. He works in our design department. He's a great guy." "He's not a great guy. Not one bit. He's been stalking me for the past couple of weeks. I can't get away from him. Can't you get rid of him?" "Look, Martin, I think you're being a bit silly. He's a friend of mine from work. I've known him for years. Just go back in there and speak to him." "I know him as well. I've known him since school, and now he won't leave me alone." "Is there anything I could help with?" Simon was stood in the doorway, taking up the entire doorway. "It's just we don't want it to get cold, do we?" "No, you're right. Come on, Martin. Let's get some dinner." Simon moved back from the door to allow the other two to go first. Sam led the way, followed by Martin. Simon held his hand out to greet Martin with a warm handshake, but Martin pushed his hand away and stormed past. As the night went on, it turned into more of the same as the past couple of weeks. Heavy drinking until you pass out and wake up the next morning with a pulsing head. However, this morning was different. Martin awoke in his own flat. to knocking at his door. The news was on the TV, and Martin recognised the house that was the main focus. He read the headline, "Slaughter at Family Home." Martin was fixed in a stunned silence. What had happened? What had Simon done? He needed to contact the police. He picked up the phone to call them, and at that precise moment the door imploded, launching splinters across the room, and in stormed a handful of police officers. They went straight for Martin, and 2 of them held him still while the others searched his flat. "I know who you're looking for. I know who killed my sister." Martin was pleading with them to listen to him. He was ignored, and the searching carried on. Martin didn't know what they were looking for. They made their way around the living room and the bedroom. They had now gotten into the kitchen. "Go careful with those, they're very delicate," Martin called after one of the policemen as he spotted him sliding the pot of coriander across the worktop. One of the policemen opened the fridge, and what they saw they couldn't believe. A man's head was on a plate in the fridge. Slices were very carefully cut from his cheeks. Martin recognised the inflated chin and the beady eyes, and that sideways smile that said, "I've got you." Martin was dragged out of his door and stuffed into a police car. His phone still lay on the living room floor. Bing! A message from Simon. "See you soon."
We hope you've enjoyed tonight's grisly tale. Please join us next time for another adventure into the dark unknown.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fireside, written by Rodeo Whiter and Dan Lee, and produced by RODEAX.